وسهلا بكل الذين ينضموا للاستماع إلى راديو بلدي، أول راديو عربي أمريكي ويعنى بقضايا العرب في المهجر. برامجنا في راديو بلدي كل يوم جمعة من 8 وحتى 9 صباحا في بث حي ومباشر عبر WNZK راديو 690 AM. صباح الخير بلدي، صباح الخير لكل مستمعينا.
Welcome to Radio Baladi, the first Arab, Middle Eastern, and American simulcast radio show. Radio Baladi is broadcast every Friday morning on WNZK 690 AM from 8 until 9 Eastern Time on Good Morning, Michigan. Our call-in number 248-557-3300. And now, stay tuned for the best radio talk show on Arab and American issues.
Welcome to Radio Baladi, broadcasting live on WNZK AM 690 radio in Detroit and on WDMV AM 700 radio in Washington, D.C., and also live on the U.S. Arab Radio Network on an online stream. I'm Ray Hanania, your host, and it's Friday, September 9th, 2022. My guest with me today is Rashada Al Dabbagh, the founder and executive director of the Arab American Civic Council, which is based in Anaheim, California. Is that correct, Rashad? Anaheim, correct?
Yes, we are based in Anaheim.
We always think of Los Angeles. I never think of Anaheim, but we're going to think of Anaheim because of what you've done there. The Arab American Civic Council is a grassroots organization that builds community by facilitating civic participation towards justice and equity. Rashad, thank you so much for joining us. It's a real pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me, Ray.
Well, first of all, tell us a little bit about the Arab American Civic Council. You're the founder and the executive director. What was the purpose of it, and what did you do? Why did you set it up?
I set it up back in 2011 initially because we felt that there's a need in the community. There's a gap. There's a large Arab American community in Southern California, but there wasn't an organization that is engaging local folks in civic participation. There's a lot of us, but we didn't have that much of an impact politically in Southern California. We got all these national organizations, but nothing local. So I wanted an organization that works locally to mobilize and engage Arab Americans and get them involved and make their voices heard and their presence felt.
And when was it set up?
Initially in 2011, we were completely volunteer for the first few years, and then slowly we started growing around 2016, and now we've done a lot in the city of Anaheim to the point where they finally recognize that we are here, we exist, and they designated Little Arabia.
Yeah, let's just go into that and talk about it, because that is a big deal. You know, anytime a community recognizes an ethnic group, it's big. And I remember growing up in Chicago with Greektown, where they had Little Mexico, they had Little Italy, but there was like one store in the 60s, Ziad Brothers, Syrian Bakery, and that was it. That was Little Arabia, but it's grown so big, and we have trouble getting official designations because there are a lot of people that don't like Arabs. You've actually succeeded in getting that designation in Anaheim for an area, correct, where there are a lot of Arab businesses and community. Tell us about what is Little Arabia? How big is it?
Absolutely. So the Little Arabia that was designated is a small stretch on Brookhurst Street in West Anaheim, between Broadway and Ball. So it's not huge, but it means so much for the community. This is, for us, Little Arabia is our community's home away from home. It's where people when they first come to Southern California, they go to this part of town because this is where they get their services. When they first arrived, this is where all the Arab businesses are, the service providers, the nonprofits, and the restaurants, the authentic, Arab restaurants and cafes and hookah lounges. So, but the designation process started a long time ago. It actually started in the late 90s, early 2000s by other individuals, entrepreneurs that had this vision. And it took about 2 decades. It took a long time. Now, the first business that was kind of started the Little Arabia, or what started Little Arabia, was a small market called Al Tayyibat. It was a grocery store, and a lot of the other businesses started popping up around it, and more community members started coming to this to West Anaheim, what is now known as Little Arabia.
Now, some people say, "Oh, it's just a business; it's a sign on a street." But I think what you did empowers the community. It forces everybody else to recognize us, doesn't it? They recognize your community. Has it changed the sense? I'm sure it's the sense of pride must be huge, right?
Absolutely. Not only that, but it also gives the community hope. Some people might say, so what, designation or not, we existed anyway. But now our local government, our city, recognize that this is a Little Arabia, and that gives our community hope that when we actually advocate and we do this kind of work, when we organize and we mobilize people, it's not a waste of time. It's actually you'll see results if you keep doing it. And it's not only for Little Arabia, but also for other issues. So I feel that like the biggest win, besides the fact that now it's designated, is the hope that it gives our people.
Yeah. So you're now a presence,
Yes.
And again, listen, you and I remember years and years ago, we had our disagreement with the census. We could talk about that later.
Right.
And if we offended each other, I want to tell you, I apologize to you. Because issues for Arab Americans,
it's okay to have disagreements. That's not.
I agree with you. I totally agree that we should be able to have disagreements, but the disagreement was on something probably that was irrelevant. But what you've done, I think, is you've kind of stepped around the census in a way, forcing the community, the bigger community of California, to recognize your community. You now exist. Because there are a lot of Arab communities, and even in Chicago, we're not recognized. The city doesn't, they know we're there. They cause us problems, but there's nothing that says, wow, Little Arabia. That means there must be Arabians here someplace, right? In addition to all the benefits of the business. Tell us about the empowerment of the community, that having something like that. I think that's the bigger advantage, isn't it?
Absolutely. One of my colleagues, Amin, who's been working with me on Little Arabia in the last year, he describes our community as visibly invisible, because we're here. You see us. You see the Arabic signs. You know a lot of the Arabs. We're active. We're engaged. But then there's no data about us. We're not recognized by our local governments or nationally. We're invisible. So in the census, we're invisible, but we're here. We're distinct. We're engaged. We exist. So we're hoping that this recognition breaks that and becomes a vehicle for more recognitions and other avenues. Census is one thing that's really important, and we definitely want to change that. But even locally, like now, maybe it's symbolic, but this will benefit the community, and there's a lot more work to do locally. Now, the city, when they formally recognized Little Arabia, there was actually a huge discussion, and some of the council members did not want to do it. they actually had two agenda items about about Little Arabia. One was a formal designation, and the other one was to conduct a study of Brookhurst Street. And after months and months of studying Brookhurst Street, then we look into how we can improve the district or whether we will recognize it or not. So that agenda item actually was approved first, and then they started talking about a designation, which was introduced by another council member. I feel that if we didn't have close to 100 people at City Hall that evening, and if those people that were there didn't stay until the end of the night, maybe it wouldn't have passed. But we put a lot of pressure on the city. We were organized, and we got it done. Now, next steps are to get that sign up. So we're going to work with the state on that, and also organize the businesses and work with the city on that study to see what improvements and how this designation can benefit us, and what kind of improvements we can bring to this part of town.
What I like so much about this story is that it's about, in my opinion, communications. It's about educating people around us who are not Arab. I knew about Little Italy in Chicago for many years, or Greek town. We would go there as visitors, and we learned about the Greek people. We learned about the Italian people through their food, through their businesses. Chinatown, we would buy gifts. It wasn't just about business. It was understanding and saying, oh, you're just like us. Mm-hmm. Now. And I would always say to my parents, I said, is there a Little Arabia someplace? And they go, well, yeah, but there was never any signs. It was Little Arabia to us, but it was never Little Arabia to the rest of society. I think what you've done is so significant. I wish it could be replicated, around the country. And what I like about what you did was, you got, like you said, 100 people to go to the meeting. This wasn't a protest against something. Mm-hmm. This was an anger, the usual things we see, people angry, people protesting. This is positive. And sometimes we don't see enough of that. And I hope we do. Now, Rashad, we got to take a break here real quick. And then we're going to come back and continue this discussion. I'm Ray Hanania, everybody. You're listening to WNZK AM 690 in Detroit and WDMV AM 700 radio in Washington, D.C. And you might also be listening on the U.S. Arab Radio Network on their online stream at arabradio.us. I'm Ray Hanania, your host, and my guest with me is Rashada Al Dabbagh, the founder and executive director of the Arab American Civic Council, based in Anaheim, California. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back right after these messages.
ArabNews.com, bringing you breaking news from across the Middle East and the latest on Arabs in America. Get inside the latest headlines with expert analysis and insights at ArabNews.com. Join over 5 million Facebook fans and over 10 million monthly readers. ArabNews.com, news that matters to you.
Ziyad brand, quality products from our family to yours. Ziyad Brothers Importing offers the finest quality products, including brands like Sultan, Kraft, Nestle, Hook, Rico Picon, Donna, and many more. Ask your retailer to carry these fine products because you deserve the very best. For more information, visit our website at www.ziyad.com. That's www.ziyad.com. Ziyad, quality products from our family to yours.
When it comes to reproductive medicine, IVF Michigan Fertility Centers are the recognized leaders. With locations in Bloomfield Hills and 5 other cities in Michigan and Ohio, IVF has experts in all aspects of the field. As a founding member of IVF Michigan Fertility Centers, Dr. Nicholas Shama is one of the leading reproductive endocrinologists in Michigan and Ohio. Dr. Shama has performed over 10,000 IVF cases and has helped thousands of couples fulfill their dreams of parenthood. American board certified in both obstetrics obstetrics and gynecology and reproductive endocrinology and infertility, Dr. Nicholas Shama is a very caring, compassionate, expert physician that understands not only the medical but also the emotional toil of infertility on his patients. When it's time, get personalized care from Dr. Nicholas Shama at IVF Michigan Fertility Centers in Michigan and Ohio. Call toll-free 855-952-9600, 855-952-9600. Get ready for an amazing experience at Ishtar Restaurant on 15 Mile Road in Sterling Heights. Enjoy excellent hospitality from owners Ali Al-Baghdadi and Fatty Bonham, serving the best in Mediterranean food. Try Chef Ali Al-Baghdadi's famous shawarma, the best Iraqi grills and food, and the best Arabic and international dishes. Dine in our authentic atmosphere or take out. Call 586-698-2585 or check us out on Facebook. Ishtar Restaurant practices all CDC guidelines and is open every day 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Have an amazing experience today at Ishtar Restaurant, 3625 15 Mile Road, Sterling Heights.
All right, welcome back to Radio Baladi. I'm Ray Hanania, your host, and with me on radio is my guest, Rashada Al Dabbagh. He's the founder and executive director of the Arab American Civic Council based in Anaheim, California. The Arab American Civic Council is a grassroots organization that builds community by facilitating civic participation towards justice and equity. And I think you lived up to your name by creating this designation for Little Arabia. And you point out it's still in progress. Things, like getting the big sign behind you in the background there is probably that's phenomenal. I would love to see Little Arabia in Chicago someplace. What do you have to do to actually achieve that? What is it that you did that other communities are not doing? Because there are Little Arabias all over the country. And I wonder, when are we going to get those other Little Arabias recognized? What do you say to them?
Just last night we were talking, we had a board meeting and we were talking exactly about this. Is there an interest from other Arab communities across the state to do this? And if so, how can we provide support? How can we kind of give them a blueprint? I know each city has its own dynamics and the processes and each city is distinct. But I think if folks want to do this in other parts of town, we know of Chicago, we know of New Jersey, we know of parts of New York. There's even San Diego and El Cajon. There's a little Baghdad that's not official. So there's a lot of opportunities to kind of replicate this and get it done in other states, but it's not easy. I remember in 2008, I was working at a local organization, and I met the mayor of Anaheim, and I mentioned Little Arabia to him, and he brushed it off. He didn't like the idea, and then 2 years later, in 2010. Myself and a few other folks came together and were like, why don't we, create a push for a designation for Little Arabia to make it official? We have a large community here, and even those who don't you go to Little Arabia at night, you talk to the people there. Half of them don't live in Anaheim. They come from LA or other parts of Southern California, because this is kind of the hub of Arab community here. So why not do this Little Arabia? So at the time, this is 2010, we met with the city council members, we met with commissioners, we met with some elected officials, we spoke to media, we created the media presence, social media presence for Little Arabia.
What were they looking for when you met with them? In other words, were they looking for the idea, or were they looking for you to say, oh, these guys are organized, these guys got their act together, we'd better listen to them? What exactly were they looking for to get them to say, we should do this?
Well, back in 2010, they were dismissive. They didn't like the idea. It sounded controversial. It's not a Little Italy. It's not a different ethnicity that they might prefer.
We're controversial, aren't we, in this country?
Yeah, our existence is controversial.
Not because we've done anything.
Yeah.
You know, you and I, law-abiding people, we express our opinion and we pay our taxes, we follow the laws, but they think we have done something and they hold us up to that standard. But go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And over the past decade, we never saw organized opposition to a Little Arabia. It's just a fear of seeing any kind of opposition to it from the council members. That's my feeling, at least. There was a small group of really loud but very small old Anaheimers. They call it the old Anaheim. Back when Anaheim was not diverse. Today, Anaheim is very diverse. You got majority Latino, a lot of Asian Americans, Vietnamese, and Arab Americans. So there's a small minority of loud folks who didn't want it, but they weren't publicly opposed to it. So we think that they were privately speaking to their friends on the council about possibly their opposition to it. So we've never seen any organized opposition to it. So we're always wondering, why not? Everybody around us says, why not? Why not a Little Arabia? But it was always kind of ignored, brushed aside. That was in 2010. And then the movement kind of died down a little bit. And then 2013, 2014, we kind of reorganized, energized the community. We hosted a bunch of events. We met with then Mayor Tom Tate and some of the council members. We hosted events. There's one that was called the Shawarma Summit, inviting influencers in the city to one of the local Lebanese restaurants. It was in waves. We organized, and then things died down a little bit. But the most recent push started in 2020. We got to a point where we were frustrated that it's not happening. We got to a point where we were also actually we had more capacity. So the Arab American Civic Council had more capacity to take on this project. And we also were fearful of the impact of COVID on the local community and the businesses, because some of the businesses shut down, others were struggling. So we wanted to do something for this small business community, and we launched this campaign, the latest campaign, in 2020. And we even partnered with an academic institution to do an academic poll. So we spoke to a sample of Anaheim voters, who a majority of them said that they supported designation, but the council was still not moving. So that's when we decided to go at every council meeting. Those 100 people didn't only come on August 23rd when it was designated. No, we mobilized back in late 2020, 2021, in March, and then also in June, and then throughout the year, and then finally, it was on the agenda. And what was interesting is that we had a mayor who was an immigrant himself. He's from India, but he was opposed to the designation, and the reason why he was opposed, he politicized it. Because during his election, some of the Arab community members supported his opposition. But couple months ago, the mayor was forced to resign after there was an FBI investigation into corruption.
Some controversy that pushed him out.
Yes. So he resigned, and his resignation brought back life into this movement. And because when he was still the mayor, our plan was to keep talking about it during the election season, and see what happens. And then after the election, with whether we would see whether the mayor is still in office, or we have a new mayor, a new council that is more open to the idea. But he resigned, and we took that opportunity to push, and finally it was designated on the 23rd of August.
So politics, I mean, does have something to do with the challenges that we face, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And what I like is that, you know, too often I see our community, we get emotional, we get upset, we get 100, 200, 300 people sometimes at a protest, and then it dissipates and the emotion kind of goes away. We're still angry and it doesn't continue. What you did was you actually continued a movement. It didn't just die. It stayed that way. And that, I think, is unusual for our community. Now, I'm going to have you. Now, we got to take another break. I tell you, these segments go by faster than you think. But what I'd like to talk to you about is give us a little description of the Arab community in California. How does it fit in nationally, you know, with the rest of the Arab community in the United States? And maybe we can talk a little bit of how do we network these communities? You know, is there a way that we can work together as a community? Do we have a media? You know, I know you have a paper out there, I think, in California that's pretty influential, but I don't get a chance to see it. I don't see it enough. And it would be great to help the media, because the media and communications carry our community, I think, sometimes. But that's because I'm a journalist. So, you know, that's my principle. Let me just say right now, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue talking with our guest, Rashada Al Dabbagh, the founder and executive director of the Arab American Civic Council, which is based in Anaheim, California. The Arab American Civic Council is a grassroots group that builds community by facilitating civic participation towards justice and equity. What's your website again, so we can tell everybody if they want to go there and get more information, Rashad?
AACivicCouncil.org.
AACivicCouncil.org. All right, I'm Ray Hanania. It is Friday, September 9th, 2022. You're listening to this program live on WNZK, AM 690 in Detroit, and on WDMV AM 700 radio in Washington, D.C., and also live on the U.S. Arab Radio Network online stream. I'm Ray Hanania. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back right after these messages.
ArabNews.com, bringing you breaking news from across the Middle East and the latest on Arabs in America. Get inside the latest headlines with expert analysis and insights at ArabNews.com. Join over 5 million Facebook fans and over 10 million monthly readers. ArabNews.com. News that matters to you. Enjoy the first Syrian-style cuisine in Michigan. At Damas Cuisine and Catering, you'll find a wide selection of Syrian foods and sweets in our menu, like frikeh, poisi, grape leaves with steak, mishawi platter, hot mahashi, char-grilled kebab, shawarma, and much more. Get super fast delivery from Damas Cuisine and Catering right to your door. Order online at damascuisine.com/menu and track your order live. Damas Cuisine and Catering, 28841 Orchard Lake Road in Farmington Hills. Call 248-987-4985.
Are your hands feeling numb? Do you feel pain opening up a jar, turning a key? Are you noticing that your elbow and your shoulder are becoming stiff? Or were you recently injured in your arm? Hello, I'm Dr. Al-Majid Katranji, and at the Katranji Hand Center, which just recently opened down the street from the Somerset Mall, we can provide you with the latest in hand, wrist, elbow, and shoulder care. Visit us at www.katranjihandcenter.com to learn the latest techniques that we have to offer you, and I look forward to taking care of you.
Visit us in Troy at 1565 West Big Beaver Road, Building F, or call Katranji Hand Center for an appointment at 248-869-4263. That's 248-869-4263.
Are you going to start a restaurant or grocery store soon? Do you need floor plans and designs? Call Naji Abood at 734-744-9796. Do you want to buy kitchen and restaurant equipment at discount prices? Call Naji Abood now, 734-744-9796. New Concept Products and Design, the trademark of kitchen equipment. 5% discount on all purchases of $75,000 or more. New Concept Products and Design, new location, 31 185 Schoolcraft in Livonia. Learn more at www.newconceptproducts.com. Call Najee Abood 734-744-9796. When you're looking for the best in optical care, Dr. Imad Nakash is your doctor to see. With years of experience and thousands of successful procedures performed, you can trust your eyes to Dr. Imad Nakash. See Dr. Imad Nakash and his professional staff for your eye care needs. There's 2 locations to serve you. In Hazel Park, call 248-336-3937. 248-336-3937. In Rochester Hills, call 248-299-3937. That's 248-299-3937.
Welcome back to Radio Baladi. It's Ray Hanania here with my guest, Rashada Al Dabbagh, and we were talking about this great success of building and designating Little Arabia in Anaheim, California. Anaheim is not a strange name to me because, one, I know you, but there's a newspaper out there, I think, that was pretty influential. And you had a guy named Joe Hayek, who I knew going back many, many years to the 1970s, who did a Arab American Almanac, I think, for many years. It was phenomenal effort on his part. I know he passed away a number of years ago. I think his daughter is still trying to keep the Arab American historical presence alive there. So you've always been on the spotlight for people out in Chicago. It's like we're little colonies living separate from each other. We don't really connect, do we?
Well, there's ways to connect, and some folks are connected, but there's more that needs to be done.
We
Joe,
need to do more,
Hayek, right? May his soul rest in peace. He was an amazing individual. Yeah. His work was so important. Our inaugural gala was in 2016, and we gave him the Lifetime Achievement Award. That was a couple of years before he passed. But he made a huge impact in the community.
He was one of those guys who knew how to bring people together. There's always one or two in the community, unlike me, who's always I have certain opinions, and the Arab community, we're not used to communications. We come from a world where journalism is controlled.
Right.
And we come here and we physically we're here, but mentally we're still back home sometimes, especially with communications. So they may read one part of a column I write and forget about everything else that I've written and get mad at me, and we stay divided. How do we rise up above problems like that? And I know there are other issues, but what do you think is the best way? You agree, right? There's a benefit for getting the country to work together. We don't have to have one organization, but we need to find a way where we can work together. Isn't that important? And how do we do that? What do you think?
I think we definitely need to work more together. And I don't want to highlight only how divided we are, because there's a lot of good things happening out there.
Yes, there are. And
yeah, it's okay to disagree. It's okay to have different points of view. But the important thing is that we continue to work together. For example, with the Arab American Civic Council, we're part of a national network. It's called the National Network for Arab American Communities. So it's a project of Access in Michigan, and it's an umbrella organization of 20 plus Arab American service providers, cultural organizations, and civic organizations like ours. So we kind of coordinate and work together on projects throughout the year. There used to be a national a network of Arab American professionals, died down.
I remember that.
Yeah.
That one I heard of. The Access, the network you just talked about, I'd never heard of. And being a journalist, I feel like I've failed because I didn't know about that. That's such an important thing.
I
think communication.
Yeah. Absolutely. And we have members from Chicago that are part of it, including the Arab American
Action
Network and the Family Services.
Arab American Family Services, Itadal, Shalaby and Neriman
Yes.
Taha, two of my best friends.
Yes.
They're
Yes.
good friends of mine. But our community in Chicago is so divided. And I always I lament the fact that we're divided. And you're right. We shouldn't always focus. I don't mean to focus on the negative, but we have to acknowledge the challenges so that we can get past them. Correct? We can't just close our eyes to them.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
So what do we do? Well, how do we do this? I mean, listen. Tell us a little bit more about the Arab community in California. What are they? And are Egyptian, Lebanese, Palestinian, Jordanian, Syrian? Give us a little profile.
Right. So California has the largest Arab population in the whole country, but California is huge. So there's a concentration in Orange County here, in and around Anaheim. Los Angeles has a large community, and of course San Diego and the Bay Area. But it's a huge state, so we're scattered. Even in Southern California, it's really difficult to get folks together from Los Angeles to Orange County because we're scattered. It's a huge. The geography doesn't help, but it's still the largest population in the country. It's very diverse: Palestinian, Syrian, Lebanese, Egyptian, and Syria. I mentioned Syrian, Jordanian. In San Diego, there's more of an Iraqi population. There's a smaller Yemeni community here, when I'm talking about Southern California or the greater LA area, I always look at the Little Arabia restaurants, and sometimes it reflects the population, because there's a lot of Palestinian and Lebanese and Syrian and a few Syrian restaurants, and then a few Egyptian restaurants. So these are the largest communities, and then there's a couple of Iraqi restaurants, and then more recently we saw opening of a Yemeni restaurant, which is a smaller population here. But so these are in general the largest communities here. We have also Libyan, but it's also smaller in numbers. Not too many from the Gulf, of course, or from the Morocco and North part of North Africa.
Yeah. And what drew the Arabs to and I guess the way I'm looking at California, you're in Anaheim. Is that Northern California near San Francisco?
That's Southern California.
You're near Los Angeles.
Near Los Angeles. So
you're near Los Angeles, which is
right
the middle
next to
of
Los
California.
Angeles. Yeah.
So you're in the middle of California. Then you have San Francisco up in the north.
Yeah, so we
you do have a big state. That's not easy to describe.
We have a big state. We describe Los Angeles and Orange County as part of Southern California, because you have Los Angeles, Orange County, and then south of Orange County is San Diego County, and then Mexico. So it's Southern California
and Northern California. So we'll divide you into two sub-states. How's that? Right. North and south. What drew the Arabs to California? What was it that brought them out there? Do you know it all, or like your family? What brought you out to California?
Well, I mean, the weather has to do with it probably, but my family. So my dad's Palestinian, my mom's Armenian, and I was born in Saudi Arabia, raised in Saudi Arabia. But my mom's side of the family is Armenian, and Southern California has the largest Armenian community outside of Armenia. So we came to Southern California because we had, my mom's siblings lived here, and that's kind of what brought us here. And
and what about the rest of the Arabs?
Right. People come here for different reasons. I know that San Diego resettles a lot of refugees. Also, the greater LA area, there's a lot of refugees that come there because it's one of the areas where folks resettle. It's one of the diverse places, so people who are Arab want to go to other cities where there's a large community that they can feel supported and feel like there's a home away from home. Southern California, the weather's nice. There's beaches. The weather reminds people of back home. So the geography and the weather is close to where they come from. It's absolutely an attraction, and a lot of people come from education. I actually moved here for education, and I came here as a student for college.
The universities out there are big, yeah.
Yeah. So people come for different reasons. Some are here for opportunities, some for education, some because they fled war.
Is it a newer community? Is it a newer population? Because in the turn of the century, we were talking about the 1900s. A lot of people were just immigrating to the U.S. from the Middle East to escape whatever the issues were back home. So they'd land in New York. They'd hear about jobs in the auto industry in Detroit, and then they'd hear about jobs in Chicago. So they kind of spread out into those directions. Is the Arab community in California part of that, or did they come later, do you think?
They are part of that because the oldest communities are from they came in the turn of the century. So you have you have the Lebanese and Syrian communities that have been here for that long. Now in Anaheim, in Orange County, it's newer. So like I mentioned earlier, it was in the early 80s where this community started forming. It wasn't like in LA, in Los Angeles, which is the county next to us. It's much older. But here in Orange County, it formed around the early 80s.
All right. We're going to take one last break, and then we have another final segment that we can do with our guest, Rashada Al Dabbagh, the founder and executive director of the Arab American Civic Council. Their website is aacivicouncil.org, correct?
Yes.
Got that right, I hope? All right, good. I always want to make sure it's right. You're listening to Radio Baladi, broadcasting live on WNZK AM 690 in Detroit and WDMV AM 700 radio in Washington, D.C., and also live on the U.S. Arab Radio Network. I'm Ray Hanania. It's Friday, September 9th, 2022. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll finish our discussion with Rashada Al Dabbagh, the founder and executive director of this great organization that really did something phenomenal by designating Little Arabia in Anaheim, California. But we're talking about bigger issues, but they're really all connected. I'm Ray Hanania. We'll be right back right after these messages.
ArabNews.com, bringing you breaking news from across the Middle East and the latest on Arabs in America. Get inside the latest headlines with expert analysis and insights at ArabNews.com. Join over 5 million Facebook fans and over 10 million monthly readers. ArabNews.com, news that matters to you.
Kushat's Mediterranean Market and Shish Kebab offers a great array of your favorite Mediterranean meals. Meals range from lamb specialties, shawarma sandwiches, seafood dinners, and they offer special big trays of your favorite food, plus much more. Kushat's Mediterranean Market and Shish Kebab address is 32839 Northwestern Highway in Farmington Hills. Their phone number is 248-538-9552. That number again is 248-538-9552, and the supermarket is open from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. Kushat's Mediterranean Market and Shish Kebab will definitely leave you satisfied.
Life is a nonprofit charity that's provided humanitarian aid and development to people and communities for over 25 years, regardless of race, color, religion, or cultural background. When disaster occurs here or around the world, Life for Relief and Development rushes in to provide food, medical aid, and shelter to those in need. Please help improve these efforts. Make your tax-deductible donation to Life now at lifeusa.org or call 248-424-7493. At Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic in Dearborn, we provide effective physical therapy sessions in order to limit pain and discomfort. Top Rehab provides physical therapy care for any diagnosis prescribed by a physician, and we regularly see and treat conditions such as stroke, TMJ, fibromyalgia, sciatica, joint pain, and more. We use a variety of pain management methods, including modalities, soft tissue mobilization, and therapeutic exercise. If you're in need of physical rehabilitation or physical therapy, get the highest quality health care at Top Rehab. Most insurance is accepted, and we're open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday 8 to 6, Tuesday and Thursday 8 to 5, and Saturday 10 till 2. Call for an appointment today at 313-846-0555. That's 313-846-0555. Choose Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic on Michigan Avenue in Dearborn. Life's too short to be in pain.
Welcome back to Radio Baladi. I'm Ray Hanania. It's our final segment here on Friday, September 9th, 2022 on the U.S. Arab Radio Network. My guest, the phenomenal guy, Rashada Al Dabbagh, the founder and executive director of the Arab American Civic Council based in Anaheim, California. Their website is aacivicouncil.org. We only have about maybe 10 minutes left, Rashad, but we were kind of talking about, you know, we started out with the how you got Little Arabia designated, but it comes from coordinated activism, coming together and do something positive, which is what you did. And I only recently heard about it. I didn't hear about the whole effort that you put into it over the years. You've been working at this for a long time. But I think that myself and everybody listening to the show understands it better and understands you better. But we kind of expanded it into the community across the country. When you look at our community, what do you think of? I mean, just general, I want people to get to know you a little bit better. You know, how do you look at the community in the United States, Arab Americans? You know, are we organized? Are we together? Are we normal to be our diversity? We're 22 different countries, plus Armenians, right? Because Armenians are very close to the Arabs. My closest family members are Armenian, but technically they're not relatives, but we always treated them as relatives. And we've intermarried many times too.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned Joseph Hayek earlier. His wife was Armenian too. It's the diversity. It's a diverse community, and the diversity is, to me, it's a blessing. But sometimes we look at ourselves as divided, and
right.
We're not organized enough, and we're not. But we're diverse, so it's really difficult to organize communities that maybe ethnically and religiously and ideologically diverse. But we do our best. You know, this is our community. We're here to serve this community, so we do our best to bring people together. I mentioned to you earlier, you know, we have the Palestinian and the Lebanese and the Syrian and the Egyptians, and then within the Egyptian community, you have Southern California is home to a large Coptic community. So it's very diverse. I think we're doing our best. We shouldn't feel horrible about some of the differences. But I think we can do better. There's always an opportunity to do better. And you know, when I look at Southern California, you know, I'm an Arab American. Faith-wise, you know, my dad's Muslim, my mom's Christian, Armenian. But in Southern California, you like the Muslim community is kind of like the stronger community, or that's the more organized.
Better.
They're more organized.
The Muslim community is better organized, but it's easier though for Muslims to come together because in the United States, there's a huge Muslim population that isn't Arab. Exactly. They don't have the burden of being Arab from the perspective of non-Arabs who look at us and, you know, they fear the Arab, but sometimes they see Pakistanis or Indians and Asians and even some Mexicans who are Muslim, and they say, oh yeah, we could work with them. So being Muslim is, I I can see how much easier, even though they have a struggle too. But
Right.
for me, it's always been, how do we uplift the identity of Arabs? You and I are Arab. The American that looks at you and me, they don't care whether you're Palestinian, Syrian, Lebanese, or whatever. They look at us and say we're exactly the same, whether we're Christian or Muslim. And I like that identity. That 4-letter word, Arab, is the positive 4-letter word.
Absolutely.
Can we elevate that more?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, I take pride in that. We're proud of our identity. We're also proud of our faith or whatever. But for me, this is how I like to identify myself. This is what I feel that we could unify around and bring more of our communities together and work together, cooperate more. And I see that I feel like I know that we need to do better, but I feel there's always an opportunity to do better. And I think this designation should be replicated elsewhere and could be something that can unify our community and bring them closer together. If we do the same thing in Chicago, if we do the same thing in New York and New Jersey, in other parts of the country. Dearborn is already, like, I call it Big Arabia. I don't know if they need a designation.
They're like the Plymouth. They like to call themselves the Plymouth Rock of the Arabian settlement in America. I think it was New York, but I'm happy to go with Dearborn because they have such an empowerment there, a concentration in one community. The Arabs in California, you're spread out over a number of towns and cities, right?
Yes, and to be frank, Anaheim, there's a large community there, but it's not like, we have next to Anaheim and Garden Grove, there's a little Saigon, there's a Koreatown. In LA, there's a little, there are all kinds of little designated ethnic enclaves. But, you go to little Saigon, everybody speaks Vietnamese. It's like Dearborn, but for Vietnamese folks. Anaheim's not that way. Anaheim's more diverse. And Arabs live there, but then it's also a destination for them. So Arab Americans go there to work and to shop and hang out at night. Like when I first moved to California, I lived in Pasadena, which is in LA County, and I used to drive to Anaheim because that's where, I was young, I was in college, and that's where, the hangout spots are and the hookah lounges and all that. Eventually I moved there. But it's a destination for Arab Americans and other folks who are interested in the Arab culture, the Arab food, the Arab folks. So it's also a destination, not only like an ethnic enclave.
And I know that recently, different states, the Arab communities, different states, we all celebrated Arab American heritage. We started late, little by little. Illinois used to be in November. Arizona was in April. I think they've joined in with April, or you were always April. Washington is April.
Personally, I remember in 2014-15 that I used to hear about Arab American Heritage Month. I remember there's one city in San Francisco, they designated a different, I think October or something.
Right.
But that's like years ago. But when I realized that most places it's April, we started mobilizing folks and getting proclamations for April. So we did Anaheim, Garden Grove, eventually the state Senate. And this year, the first time the governor's office did a proclamation. And now it's April.
I'm going to brag because Illinois is the only state that made it a law. They actually passed a law to designate April Arab Heritage Month. So you got to work toward that. You need a California law.
And I'd love to connect with whoever helped make that happen to do the same here. We need to make
we got to do that.
Yeah.
The other idea I want to give you is, and we only have about 3 or 4 minutes left. This idea of creating the country has these things called sister cities. So every city has like a sister city. Could be in the Middle East. It could be in Asia. It could be in South America. We should reverse it and do a sister city of Arab American communities to find a way to network, because your story is so important. And we don't hear about these stories enough. We don't hear about you. The only time maybe we hear about each other is when we have a difference of opinion. And, and when I remember looking at that going, this guy is so good and so active. How did I get in an argument with him? He's the exact kind of guy I would want to work with. So I'm glad that we're able to do this. You've done a lot there. And, we can't solve this today, but think in terms of how do we bring everybody together? At least we don't have to love each other. We don't have to agree 100%. We agree on fundamentals and basics, but we should help each other,
Absolutely.
Somehow.
Yeah.
And I hope this radio show helps you to get the word out, in Detroit. I don't know of a Little Arabia in Detroit, so maybe they better get to work and designate one there. I have no idea. We need one in Chicago. We don't have one designated.
I love it. But there's recently there was in New Jersey, they changed the street name to Palestine Way.
I saw that.
I remember that.
You drive through Chicago, you'll have Ben Gurion Way, Golda Meir Way, even Menachem Begin Street. There's only one Arab street. It's a half a block long, named after a great guy named Samir Odeh, who in the 60s was active with the Arab American Action Network, and did so much for the community, but we need a lot more. Listen, I want to just thank you, Rashad. And I want to tell everybody, I hope that people go online, visit AA Civic Council, aacivicouncil.org, and look Rashad Al Dabbagh up, the founder and executive director of the Arab American Civic Council, and read about their story, read about what they're doing, stay in touch, connect. We really do have to help each other. And I'm really proud that I was able to kind of have you on, Rashad, this program to talk, let people in Detroit get to know you better. Even though we're so far away in Chicago, Detroit, Washington, D.C., and California. Rashad, thank you so much for joining us. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much for the invitation and for highlighting this story.
All right, buddy. Listen, we will talk later. And for everybody else, I want to thank you for listening to Radio Baladi here on WNZK AM 690 Radio in Detroit and WDMV AM 700 Radio in Washington, D.C. And also, you might be listening to us on the U.S. Arab Radio Network on the online stream. I'm Ray Hanania. We will talk to you again soon. Remember, my website is hanania.com. You can read all my columns, all my news reports, all my stories, get all the podcasts and all the radio shows, and read about guys like Rashad Al Dabbagh who are doing great things, hopefully for our community. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. Have a great week.